Welcome to the Veganuary podcast, the podcast that helps you to try a vegan diet. It's stuffed full of hints and tips for anyone who wants to eat more plants.
Veganuary 2025 is proudly sponsored by our international sponsor, The Vegetarian Butcher. Check them out and learn more about them and all of our other sponsors in the episode notes.
Lovely. How's your week been, Wendy? Have you had anything very cliche and vegan happen to you, or the opposite, something very un-vegan happen to you?
So this week I have a least vegan thing, and it's not necessarily a vegan thing, but it feels like one. I cannot keep a plant alive, Stuart.
Oh my God. I'm with you here. I'm terrible.
I think everyone assumes because I'm vegan, I must be some kind of earth mama who's in tune with all the plants. It's just not true. This Boston fern, which I bought because I thought it made my little podcast studio look more inviting, it is not doing well. It is dropping leaves all over the floor, barely hanging in. So if any of our listeners are plant people, tell me what to do with this poor thing.
Oh, you've made me feel really good because I'm terrible at keeping plants alive. And I can keep a dog alive. Like we've got Dave who lives with us. I can keep a child alive. We've raised a child to the age of nearly 5. A plant, totally beyond me.
Well, I feel like dogs and children are pretty loud about what they need most of the time.
That's true,
you have to really tune into a plant. Maybe I need to, I don't know, do some meditation on the plant's needs.
I mean, people do that, don't they? I've heard of people listening to their plants and things. Speaking of, as I mentioned, my little boy, we watched Babe together. Showed him Babe for the first time, and I've forgotten what a great film it is, and how lovely it is, how much it makes you like pigs and sheep and other animals. And I think, it doesn't have an explicit sort of plant-based message, but I think we've claimed it, haven't we? The plant-based community has claimed it as our own. And James Cromwell, of course, our friend.
Yeah, I think we can call him our friend, a friend of Veganuary at this point.
Yeah, so he voiced one of our campaign ads a couple of years ago with Bigfoot in. And Robin loved it. He really liked it.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, that's such a good one.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, so as I mentioned in a previous episode, our whole theme of Veganuary this year is weird food things that we all take for granted, but when you think about them, they're a bit strange. A good example is the way that we raise chickens. We raise chickens to be so big to get the highest possible yield of meat from them, but impossibly large. They can't support their own weight with their legs, which is terribly sad. So that's just one example of some weird things. But I thought we'd riff on this weird idea and talk about some weird food aversions that we might have. I wonder if you have any weird food aversions, Wendy.
I'm pretty adventurous with food, as long as it's vegan, of course. So I don't have a whole lot of things that are on the no list for me, but I have 2 very strong ones. One is I just absolutely hate strawberry ice cream. I have ever since I was a kid. There's no story. It didn't make me sick at some point. I just think it's vile. I hate it. And the other is cantaloupe. Can't stand cantaloupe. I'm a friend of all fruits and veggies, but that one I can't do. And I think I know why. I worked at a fruit stand in my teenage years, like the most vegan summer job ever. But we used to cut the cantaloupes in half, and then it was my job to taste them and see if they were good. So every morning I was tasting like 5 or 6 cantaloupes, and a lot of times they weren't good, right? They'd been sitting in the sun and they'd turned. So I've just taken too many bites of nasty cantaloupe. And what about you?
I have a few. I'm similar. I don't know if I'd describe myself as adventurous with food, but there's very little food that I don't like or won't try. I hate cheese and onion crisps. Do you? Is cheese and onion potato chips a thing?
Yeah, not a common flavor here. I've had them in the UK, but no, we don't have them here.
I just hate the smell of them. I don't want to be near them. If someone else has eaten them recently and then in me, I could like sense
They're pungent.
Oh, really pungent. Yeah, not a fan. And then I've got a couple of stories, I suppose. They're a bit gross out, I guess, these stories. But
all right, if you're eating, you might want to put down the fork.
Yeah. When I was a little boy, I remember going into school once and it was like bring cake. Everyone brought cakes in. And one of my friends brought in some chocolate cakes, like chocolate muffins. And we were eating them. And then inside, you know, when the flour hasn't been like sieved properly and you get those little balls of flour. So that happened. And then someone at the table with us said that they were bogies in the chocolate cake. And obviously I didn't know that they were pockets of flour. So I just assumed that was what they were, that they were bogies. And it stuck with me that. Ever said anything like chocolate sponge, I have eaten chocolate sponge since, but I think about that. I think about the fact that there might be bogies inside it.
Yeah, and I think this is where a little bit of a Britishism. So I think I'm with you, but a bogey is a booger, right?
I think.
Oh no.
You would say. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That is totally, that would stick with me too.
I suppose in a similar vein, here in the UK, certainly, there's quite a strong link between baked beans, tins of baked beans, and passing gas. And there was a little playground chant that people used to sing when I was at school, which was... beans, beans, good for your heart. The more you eat, the more you fart. And so that often comes to mind whenever I'm eating baked beans. The association that's a bit scatological, I suppose.
That one did cross the pond. So we also had that same rhyme, but we changed it slightly in a way that makes no sense, which is beans, beans, the magic fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. Obviously, beans are not a fruit. I don't know how we edited it as such, but...
Good. Toot is a much nicer word, I think. It's quite...
Yeah, we churched it up a little.
Yeah.
So as we mention on every episode, Veganuary is totally free and always will be. But of course, there are a lot of costs associated with bringing you fresh new content every year, like our podcasts, meal plans, recipes. We have a big team that puts a lot of heart and soul into all of those resources. And you can help us make it free for anyone who would like to try vegan by making a gift. We would love to have your support, and you can donate at veganuary.com.
Awesome. I've got nothing to add to that. So I think we should move on to our interview with Freya Cox. So Freya Cox is a vegan baker from Scarborough in the UK who appeared in the 12th series of The Great British Bake Off. Since then, Freya has released a cookbook called Simply Vegan Baking, taking the fuss out of vegan cakes, cookies, breads and desserts. And she's released a range of vegan box mix bakes, which we talk about in the interview. Freya has also started collaborating with Veganuary on our social media channels, which is lovely. And it was just great to speak to her. So let's have a listen. Hello, Freya. Welcome to the Veganuary podcast. Thanks for joining us today. We are going to get into your vegan journey and we want to talk a bit about Bake Off and other things you've been working on. But first of all, we'd like to start with your dream vegan meal, please.
Okay, I'm going to have to say my dream vegan meal is like a vegan carbonara because it was my favourite thing before I went vegan and it's still my favourite thing after going vegan because I think it's like so easy to adapt and make. And to be honest, I've just genuinely never had a bad one. However, I am like the easiest to please person ever. I am literally somebody that when people are like, what do you like to eat? I'm like, as long as it's vegan, I'll eat it. Like I've got no issues. So probably I'd say that as the main, and then dessert, I'm probably going to have to go stick toffee pudding because that's like my all-time favourite dessert. But once again, I love sweet things. Everybody knows that about me. Like, I just love a good bit of cake. So I'm not going to turn down anything as long as it's vegan.
Freya, do you have a go-to recipe for carbonara?
Yeah, I do. Well, listen, I am a little bit go off of the book. Do you know what I mean? I make it up as I go each time. But I have found there's like a liquid egg replacement that's really, really good. The Oggs one, I think, is fantastic. But I also do think it's very not authentic to Italians, but just you can get so many good vegan creams nowadays. And I think if you just mix that, loads of seasonings. And I also just really love a vegan chicken stock cube. I think that it just works incredible. And then any form of crispy vegan bacon, I am the least fussy person ever.
So Freya, take us back a little bit to before you went vegan. What kind of food did you eat when you were growing up?
Do you know what? I actually think it's so interesting because I've spoke to obviously loads of people now that have gone vegan. And I often do find the majority of people say they weren't really that fussed, about meat before. But I will hold my hands up and say I was like the biggest meat eater kid ever. Like, I loved it. Like, I remember my dad making like pasta dishes when I was younger. And if he like didn't put bacon or like any form of meat in it, I'd be like, I'm not eating that. Like, I was just really annoying and loved it. So I think when I first went vegan, because I didn't go vegetarian before, I just went in straight away. It was like a massive adjustment, and I found the best thing to do, and I always say this to people, is I just kind of made vegan replacements of what I was already eating. But yeah, to be honest, I was a massive meat eater and still loved it. And that's why I am a big fan, I'll say nowadays, of just like vegan meats, because there's so many really good ones. But yeah, it was definitely a bit of a shock. But I also think in the best way, because people say all the time, don't they? Like, one of the best things about going vegan is you eat loads of foods that you never would have eaten before. And that was so me. I think because I was so, not narrow-minded, but also I think I must have been 18. Yes, I've been vegan nearly 5 years now. And I stuck to very minimal things that I always ate. And then as soon as I went vegan, my diet sort of like adapted hugely. And obviously, best decision I've ever made.
So tell us a bit about what happened 5 years ago. Why did you decide to go vegan? What was your journey like? That kind of thing.
So basically what happened was I was going through a fast food drive-through with two of my best friends. One was time and one was vegetarian. And I was going to get a chicken burger, right? So I'm just about to order my chicken burger. And one of my friends, I have got quite brutal friends, like we're all very honest. And one of them just said something like, all right, so chicken's just died for that then. Like, really just like abruptly. And I was really taken aback. I don't know why. I don't know whether, I'm trying to look back now and analyse the situation, and sometimes I wonder whether I just was naive to it and didn't really know, because I was so taken aback by the comment. And then afterwards I decided, right, I'm going to give it a go, because my dad's been vegan nearly 10 years now, so he'd been vegan a long time before me, which is why I think it's really interesting that I didn't pick it up sooner. But I think you can't blame yourself. But yeah, it was really funny that it was all just through a fast food drive-through. And then I never looked back since. Like I said, I didn't go vegetarian. I think because I'm a really all or nothing person, like it's so my personality. And I thought, I'm not going to mess around with this in between. I'm just going to commit and do it. And I'm so glad I did, because I also do think, any changes that people make are great, but sometimes taking the easier option means there's a lot more room for failure, where if you're just going to commit and be like, right, I'll throw myself in, it meant I had to fully commit to it. And yeah, great. And now my dad's made up, because we bond over being vegan. It's like our main thing that we talk about every day. So it's great.
I love that you can pinpoint the exact time and place sitting in a drive-through. That's really funny.
Yeah, the story's really vivid in my mind. And obviously, go vegan, that's what happens. Loads of people say, like, why did you do it? And I think they expect something completely different. And everyone's always like, your friends are so mean. And I'm like, well, they're not, because it was the best decision I ever made. And it's really funny, because in my family now, it's been like a bit of a domino effect. I don't know if this happens with a lot of people, but like I said, my dad's already been vegan, and now my mum's mostly vegan, my brother's vegetarian, and my auntie and uncle have now both gone vegan. So it was great. And I think that's the best way to do it, isn't it? One person sort of inspires another. And then that's how we're hopefully going to move towards a world where everybody is.
So you're in the drive-through line, and this friend calls you out, and it's planted the seed, and you want to make a change. How did you approach it? Were there any big challenges at first?
Yeah, so I remember I texted my dad immediately being like, right, this is it, Simon, I'm going vegan. And he was obviously really helpful because he did a lot of so I still lived at home at that point. Like I said, I was 18. So he did a lot of the cooking. So that was really beneficial. I think if I had to throw myself in and do it from scratch, it would have been a bit more difficult. But I also think I was really lucky in the fact that there was already so many fantastic plant-based vegan options. So like I said, when I was trying to just get the direct replacements, like a carbonara or like a bolognese, for example, like it's super easy. But yeah, I think I did. Obviously, I found challenges of I love sweet things and chocolate and those sort of things. Obviously, there are, alternatives. But at the time, and that was why I got so into baking, you couldn't really get cakes and things like that in the supermarkets as much. Nowadays, you obviously can. But that was why I really threw myself in and was like, oh, do you know what? If you can't get so many great alternatives, I'll just make them myself. So that was probably the biggest challenge. But I also think I'll hold my hands up. I think as humans, we're all full of excuses all the time. And I think a lot of the time, I'm always the first person to hold myself accountable. So I sometimes think, saying the challenges realistically, it's not that difficult. And I'm really glad I stuck it out.
But your interest in baking came after you went vegan, did it?
So basically, I always loved baking. I learned to bake with my gran when I was a kid. I've always loved it. And I was always the person who made the birthday cakes. So like my friends, I'm the dedicated birthday cake maker. I always have been because I really like decorating. That's where my skills lie, to be honest. So yeah, I've always loved it. But when I went vegan, I then got into it much more because it gave me a bit of motivation and it also made it so much more interesting. It's so much more interesting to adapt to the people's recipes and see what you can make vegan and what you can't because, people love to say, oh, well, won't be nice because it's vegan. And yeah, that's how I got into it. And it kind of snowballed after being on Bake Off, to be honest, because I know we'll talk about that more later. But before I went on Bake Off, I'd never made pastry before, never made a loaf of bread. I wasn't like a really dedicated baker. I just loved decorating cakes.
So in those early days, do you remember any slip-ups or mistakes that you made?
I think, to be honest, everybody's always making mistakes and slip-ups and things. And I think, I don't know, I think that it's difficult. I wouldn't ever pinpoint something and be like, oh, really regret that. I think I just have learned so much knowledge-wise before, if that makes sense. Things like, crisps and stuff. I had no understanding that there'd be things like milk powder in crisps. So it's probably things like that I would know the most. And also sometimes I think they can slip gelatin into weird stuff. I don't know if you found that. Me and my friend were always talking about that because this chocolate mousse that's like Pots of Joy went really viral. And my friend's also vegetarian and she loved it and she didn't realise. And it's these things that I don't know about you guys, but I get quite frustrated because I think that it should be really signposted everywhere because I'm like, surely there's a lot of people that don't want to eat that either. So yeah, probably things that I wasn't as well educated in, but as soon as I've got more knowledge and things, then it's a lot easier. But I'm always the first person to say to people, if you make any slip-ups or things like that, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean you can't say you're vegan. Everyone's trying their best.
The thing with crisps is funny, isn't it? Because sometimes there's things you just wouldn't ever think would have milk powder in, just like a salt and vinegar or something, and they've got milk powder in. And then there'll be like a beef flavour that's vegan, which I always think is really funny. I would like to talk to you about Bake Off. And I know that Wendy is a really big Bake Off fan as well. So I know that she's quite excited about talking about Bake Off. So how does it work? So you apply to go on, right? And then and presumably you have to have a conversation with the production team to say, I want to make everything vegan because I guess, what is it? You get this, is it the signature, the technical and the showstopper? So the signature and the showstopper, you sort of know what you're going in making, right? But then the technical, they're providing the ingredients for you. So I'm just intrigued in what those conversations were going in and all of that kind of thing.
Yeah, so basically I decided to apply, sent the application in the night before because I'm a really chaotic last minute person. And yeah, I love Bake Off. I'm like the biggest Bake Off fan ever. And it was the season before me, the 2020 season. And I was like, it'd be so cool if somebody on there was vegan because I just was like, why not? And it would be, you know, the reach of the show is phenomenal. You know, you'd be destined to at least inspire one person to try to go vegan. So I was like, oh, it'd be so fun. And I just sort of like impulse applied, really. And I said, obviously, in the application, because you send off pictures of things that you've made and stuff like that. And obviously I mentioned that it was vegan. But to be honest, it wasn't, I think they were very chill about it. You know, people asked me before, oh, you know, did you think you got on the show because you were vegan? And like the producer said to me, it doesn't make any difference whether your bakes are vegan or not to us. Like, we want you on the show. That's what we want, which I thought was like really lovely. But yeah, so basically the two bits that I prepped, so the signature and the showstopper, obviously were completely vegan. But like you said, the whole point of the show is the technical, that they give you the ingredients, you don't know what it is, and you make what they tell you to make. That's the concept of the show. It's always been like that, and it's never going to change.
Watching your season, I thought it was really cool that they actually didn't make like a massive deal out of the fact that you're vegan. Like, it's actually quite gently worked in there. Like, I sort of thought the judges might be like, I can't believe this is vegan all the time, and that sort of thing. I thought that it came across really well, and you showed really well that actually these cakes weren't really and that different to what everyone else was baking. I thought that was like a great thing.
Yeah, it was. And to be honest, that was exactly how it happened. And the same with everybody else. People were really interested there. And I think it was really nice how they mentioned it. And they did like intertwine the topic of it being plant-based. And a lot of the ingredients I was using, they did bring them to the forefront, which was nice. But I vividly remember it was week 1. And I just spoke to the judges before the signature bit, you know, where they come over. And they were about to walk away. And then Prue said to me after, she was like, oh, so is all of your bakes that you're going to be doing vegan? And I said, oh yeah. And she said, oh, I think that's amazing, you know, I think that's really great. And it was really nice for her. And actually I've spoke to her since, because I work for my BBC Radio York, and we were interviewing her about a new book that she did, and I was chatting to her, and she was like, oh, I remember you for being so brave, you know, taking the leap to do that. And she even said something like, realistically, we all know we should eat more plant-based and things like that. So yeah, it was really nice. The response was actually lovely.
Oh, incredible. So even if everyone in the tent was chill about vegan, all of us at home who are vegan were freaking out, like, oh my gosh, there's a vegan on Bake Off. It was really, really incredible to watch. And I'm just curious, do you feel like there was any added pressure to represent the vegan community? Because, you know, you weren't just competing, you were kind of also showing the world how easy it can be to bake vegan.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said that to my dad before I went in. I was like, listen, this would be so embarrassing if I go out week 1. I'm here like thinking I'm the big man, being like, yeah, you can do this vegan. Like, that would have been horrendous. So, and obviously nobody wants to go out week 1 as well. So I felt like a lot of pressure, because you know, nobody had ever done it before. And I think the last thing I wanted to do, which is so silly because everyone's just trying their best, I was only 19, but the last thing I wanted to do was go in and then make it look impossible, disgusting, and an absolute flop. So I was really pleased that, you know, the first 3 weeks in Bake Off were phenomenal. Like, everything went pretty well, and I had like a really, really great response. There's so many moments that I take away from it that were really positive and showed that you could make really good things. So yeah, the pressure was 100% on, but then the pressure's on in every aspect with that show. It's so intense and everyone's hysterical.
Was it like, you said you were a massive fan, was it like everything you wanted it to be going into was it like so really exciting?
Yeah, it was. So it's interesting. So I'm like the biggest Bake Off fan, so I love the show, but I'm also somebody who's just like so blasé and like really chill. Because everyone was like, oh, you know, we're like freaking out. And some people cried as they walked in. And I am just a little bit like, yeah, this is cool. But like, just is what it is. And it was fantastic. And seeing the tent in real life was really crazy. But it was a bit of a circle moment, because the first ever season, they filmed it in Bakewell. And I must have been like 9. And I saw it with my family. Coincidentally, we were just there, as if it's like foreshadowing the rest of my entire life. So it was really, really good. And it was just the best experience of my life. Like, I'll always say that, you know, and I know I'm only 22, but I struggle to see that there'll be another experience that's like quite as good.
Yeah. And when do you have a favourite moment of Freya's, don't you, from her season?
Yeah. So as you know, as someone in the US, I'm like fascinated by Britishisms and British ways of saying things. And I always call out colleagues for their, little like turns of phrase. And I love when you say it's a bit of a faff, really. I just love it.
I say that every day, literally now. I say all the time, anything that's a faff, I can't be bothered with it. I am removed any aspect of my entire life. So, but I was really confused because that's funny that you say that, because I just thought everybody knew that word. And there's even a lot of people like in the UK that were a bit like, "What? Why are you saying faff?" So we'll talk about it later, but obviously I brought out a recipe book and there's an American version, and on the front it says fuss instead of faff because they just don't know what it is. And I'm like, God, this world's crazy.
Is faff a northern? Because I say faff a lot. Is it a northern thing then?
Well, I think it might be a northern thing, but I also think I say a lot of weird stuff. Like a lot of the time, no one else says that. For some reason, I like pick up these mad words and then I can't stop saying it. So blame myself.
So did you think that being vegan meant that you had like a more challenging experience in Bake Off? You know, what everyone talks about is the heat, like how they all struggle because they're not used to cooking in the heat. So stuff like aquafaba and things like that, was that much more difficult in the heat of the tent and things like that?
I do definitely think it was harder being vegan with vegan ingredients, because the reality is it's a really difficult show anyway. You know, the stuff you're asked to make, like my week one showstopper was an anti-gravity cake. That's absolutely ridiculous. Who's making that? So let alone adding in the elements of it being vegan. And I also think as well, so I'd been vegan maybe a year and a half at that point. I'm not 100% sure. So not that long. Like if I was to go in now, what a stupid thing to say, but I would have done things, so differently. I was still learning and experimenting with recipes and stuff. But yeah, the heat's an interesting one because it was the week that I went out, actually. It was German week. It was so hot and we had these little mini fans that everyone was like clipping to their benches, and it was genuinely unbearable. But that, I don't think that made any difference whether you're vegan or not. I think that heat, it's like you feel like you're going to pass out permanent.
So do you feel like being on Bake Off opened up a lot of doors for you? Have you worked on a lot of projects since then?
Yeah, 100%. I think being on Bake Off changed my life in many ways, not just career-wise. Like I moved and lived in a different city for 2 years that I never would have because of people that I met on the show, which was amazing. And the amount of people I've met now just through things and talking about Bake Off is unbelievable. And obviously writing my first recipe book was an absolute dream and like still one of my biggest achievements, if not my biggest achievement. It was so fun and I'm so proud of it. Whenever I see it anywhere, I still can't really believe it. And just all of the opportunities, I've done lots of demos at food festivals. I always do that through summer and I always meet fantastic people that come over and are so excited for me. And I've even done little bits on CBBC, like a kids TV program here where I got slimed, which was horrendous but so funny. And the amount of stuff I've been able to do, and like even now I talk about working in the radio, that was a door that I never even imagined a career path I'd want to go down. And yeah, I'm so grateful for it.
And what, you're releasing a range of cake mix boxes, right?
Yeah, so they will be out when this goes out.
Yeah.
The company, the business is called Freya's, because I'm Freya, and it's basically been my entire life dream. Anybody that knows me that will know I've said ever since I was on Bake Off, I want to be the vegan Betty Crocker. Like I've always said that. Like such a joke. And because I love, who doesn't love a box mix cake? I'm sorry. A box mix brownie is fantastic. And I'm all for removing the faff. We've been there, we've said it before, and I just love them. So I've always wanted to do it. And then I was basically speaking to a company about doing a collab, and I got friendly with the owner. And I told him about it, and he was like, "Listen, Freya, like, let me help you make it happen." So I've spent all a year working on it, and I've put my entire life into this business. So yeah, it's a range of 4 box mix bakes, and they're not just like any bakes. They're my all-time favourites, and a lot of them are like my most popular recipes. So one of them's a brookie, so it's cookie on the bottom, brownie on the top, and that's one of my most made recipes from my books. Everybody loves it, and they're just really amazing bakes. They're really good quality, obviously 100% plant-based. They're really, really easy to make. And also, it's a really special project for me because the design and the branding is incredible because it's done by my friend who's a designer who I met after Bake Off, and she is fantastic. And then the photos that are on the front of the boxes is the same photographer who took the pictures for my book because I became really good friends with her. So it's like a big team of all my favourite people working on my lifelong dream project. So I couldn't be more excited about it.
That's so nice.
Yeah, that's incredibly exciting. And just what a crazy journey. I mean, you're such a brave person to have only been vegan for a year and a half and be like, sure, I'll apply for Bake Off. You know, I'm still, I've been vegan for 13 years and my baking is still not to the level where I'd be confident enough to compete. You know, I just think that is so cool that you went for it.
You know what it is? A big thing about my times I hate myself for it. I think I can do everything. Like, I'll see someone, like, walk on the moon and I'll be like, yeah, tomorrow I could do that. Like, literally anything in my entire life, and it's so ridiculous. Like, sometimes it just gets me in the maddest situations because I just am so delusional. But I just think if you're not living with delusion, you're doing it wrong.
The cake box mix resonates for me because it's something I used to do with my mum when I was a kid, and it's something I do now with my little boy. And you said right at the top when we were asking about how you started baking, you said you baked with your gran, right? So is there like a bit of a connection there as well? Do you sort of visualize it as things families will do together and things like that?
Oh, 100%. So my dad, we spoke about it the other day, and he said, you know, when I was younger, like always on a Sunday, he'd buy a box mix and we'd bake it together. And I think it is such a special thing. Everybody loves it. You know, if you're going round and, you know, doing something fun with your friends, so easy, just pick up a box mix and they're so exciting. And another really fun thing about them is on the back, there's a QR code, so you can scan it with your phone, because obviously my career is a lot in social media, and you can scan it and it'll pop up to a video of me making the box mix, like a tutorial, so you can watch it, because it very much links on brand for me. And then, listen, I mean, if you're messing up the box mix on your own, I'd be concerned, but if you're messing it up with a video of me to do it, then it's your problem, genuinely.
So a lot of our listeners are newbie vegans that are trying Veganuary for the first time. So for someone who's just really never given vegan baking a go, what would be some of your top tips?
Okay, I think what I always say to everybody is, like what I said at the start, I'd say take what you already like eating and make it vegan, because I think the last thing anyone needs to be doing is just completely switching up to brand new stuff, because there's lots of really cool, fun things that are vegan, you know, like using chickpeas for loads of mad ideas. But if you're not used to it and you're not already eating it, it's really easy to deter yourself. I think if you just stick with things you already know and adapt them to be vegan, it's easier to get into it. Because I think I can't express it enough, like my biggest advice to people is try to do as minimal things that are going to put you off. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be difficult and hard. Don't make it harder for yourself. You know, I always hate that discussion, you know, of people saying that plant-based and vegan things are more expensive, because there's so many ways that they don't need to be. And yeah, I also would say, like everybody says, don't beat yourself up. I think it's really sad when people say, you know, it was an interesting conversation I had with, I think it was like quite a young boy at one point. We were talking about being vegan, and he was like, oh, I really want to go vegan, but I really like honey or something. And I thought, oh, it's really sad that people don't understand that he could eat a whole like plant-based diet, and then if he desperately needs to eat a bit of honey, then that it just is what it is. This all or nothing approach, I find it really difficult, because I think we're going to struggle to convince anybody. So yeah, I would say don't beat yourself up, because you're trying your best and you're doing so much better than anyone that's not giving it a go.
And what about the absolute like store cupboard essentials for vegan baking, would you say?
That's interesting, because I would say like my biggest thing with vegan baking is I don't have any weird niche ingredients. The whole of my recipe book, the whole premise is you can get everything from a supermarket. I'm from Scarborough, a small town. There's no weird quirky supermarkets around there. You've got the Aldi and that's it. So I would say you need a soya milk, because that is, well, a plant-based milk is fine, but I would always say if you're going to make a cake, then soya milk is the best. It's got like higher protein content, some weird science, and it comes out significantly better. But then other than that, you need your just standard ingredients. And this is why I find it sometimes really frustrating that people think vegan baking and vegan cakes and things are like a whole different category. They're literally not. Like, it's the whole same thing other than eggs or like a dairy butter. You know, there's so many really, really good plant-based butters. And if you're in the UK, you know, the baking block that you can get in all supermarkets is dead cheap. I always talk about it. Really cheap, accidentally vegan, and it's fantastic. Other than that, you know, all of your staples, and you're going to be absolutely fine. I mean, I do really like aquafaba, as people will have heard about whipping up as an egg white substitute. It is fantastic, and it's really good. You know, to make meringues, we did pavlova on Bake Off, and I used that. And whoever created that is a genuine genius. But I would say, you know, if you're new to being vegan and you want to get into baking, you don't have to worry about things like that. You know, a standard cake recipe, you know, I've got so many amazing cake recipes. People think that they have to add these egg substitutes in, and I can't explain it enough that you don't need to substitute the eggs. The vegan recipe in general is so straightforward and easy, and there is no replacement. They're just not necessary. So that's what I would say.
So you said you live in quite a small town now. Do you have a lot of options for eating out there? Do you have a favorite spot to grab a vegan bite?
Yeah, so I've actually moved. So I'm from a small town, and then now I've moved out and don't live with my family anymore. I was causing them too much hell, all the mess in the kitchen. Where I live now is amazing for vegan options, but the UK is so good. And I would think that you'd be hard pressed to go somewhere and not find a vegan option now, which is really, really good. But yeah, like I said, I am really not fussy. There is a place, so I lived in Liverpool for almost 2 years, and there was a vegetarian, vegan Indian place called Sanskriti, and I've never ever had food as good as that. It was phenomenal. And they did this like coconut zachary that was amazing. I'm actually going back to visit my friends in a couple of weeks, so I'm making sure to go back there. But yeah, the vegan options now are so good.
What about have you ever had an experience where you've been to a restaurant and it's been like, you've had a really terrible experience? You've been given non-vegan food or anything like that? Have you got any stories?
Yeah, so I've been, I love a little holiday. Who doesn't love a holiday? And I was in Turkey last year, and I wasn't with my family, and I was with a group of people that nobody was even vegetarian. And on the menu, I'd got this. It was like a vegan. It was like, how do you say that word? Like schnitzel, you know, like chicken. And it said vegan everywhere. And then when they brought it out, I like cut into it, and maybe I am too sus, but I haven't eaten meat in 5 years. I'm not about to eat a bit of chicken. And I was convinced it looked like chicken. I was saying because obviously I didn't want to be rude as well, because there's nothing worse. So like when the waiter guy came over, I was like asking him, and he was convinced. But also my accent is unbearable to a lot of people from the UK, let alone a guy who doesn't speak the language. So I just thought, he's got no idea what I'm saying. So in the end, I absolutely didn't eat that. I think I was with people that ate meat, so obviously I didn't want to waste, so I think they ate it, and then I just had some chips, because I just thought I'd be hysterical. I am quite a dramatic person, if you haven't already gathered that, and I think I would start crying. I say it now all the time. If I accidentally ate meat, like, I would be hysterical. Could never forgive myself. So, yeah, it's a risky business. And I'm really like, you know, there's jokes about people saying when they go to a coffee shop and they just don't trust people that it's oat milk. Like, I want to see you pour the oat milk into the carton, because I'm so on edge all the time. I mean, like, I know it wouldn't kill me, but it's been 5 years. It's like, I can't take that.
So you have made no secret that you have a sweet tooth. What is your biggest food vice?
Okay, vice as in thing that not really good for you that I love.
Just a super indulgent treat that you love, that you can't resist.
Okay, because I was going to say I am so not the vegan for the health. I'm like eating that food every day of the week. I couldn't care less. I'm like, you only live once, girl. Get yourself the bit of cake. But I would probably say, do you know what I really love? It's like an ice cream sandwich. So you can get really good vegan cookies now. And obviously I make them all the time. So you see, this is where I take it too far. It's like, just have the ice cream or have the cookie, and I'll get what I like. I've made them. I'll have a cookie on top, and then I'll put like a nice bit. My favorite is mint chocolate chip ice cream, which for some reason it's really hard to get vegan mint chocolate chip ice cream. So if I ever find it anywhere, and you might have seen that hack where you like put the ice cream tub on the side and you take a slice out of it. So I'd have like a white chocolate chip cookie, then a mint chocolate chip ice cream, and then another cookie on top. And it's truly the dream of my entire life. But literally anything sweet I'm eating all the time. Like when people say they don't have a sweet treat every day, I'm like, well, what's the point then? Like I'm waking up for my sweet treat, you know what I mean?
That ice cream sandwich sounds insane. I really want it. Have you got a bake that's like the most proud, the best thing you ever did that you're most proud of?
Yeah, do you know what? I probably would say the rocking horse that I made on week 2 out of biscuit, and I'd made it in the practice tent the day before. And I must have like not baked the gingerbread long enough. And there's a picture of me. I turned it over. There's a picture of me sat on the floor, almost crying. Pops was crying actually. And the whole rocking horse had just fully collapsed. And this was literally the day before of filming it. And I just thought, I'm not going to make it out alive. So when I made it on Bake Off, and it did look really good, I was really proud of it. And I thought, oh, I can't believe I've actually managed to do that. And I still sometimes look back at it and like look at pictures and I think like, oh yeah, really outdid myself there. So would I ever make it again? Absolutely not. But I've got proof that I made it once, and yeah, I love it. It was really, really good.
That was really, really cool. Okay, so now the Bake Off nerd in me is going to come out. I want to hear more about this practice tent. So do you stay on site? This is one thing they never say on the show, but do all the bakers stay there and then you practice leading up to the filming day?
So it was quite different because my year was during COVID.
Oh, right.
So everyone was like trapped in the hotel. So yeah, at least that year they did. So they kind of explained that we were basically like all isolating together, you know, so nobody caught it or anything like that. So we made it a really fun experience. You know, we were all really, really close while we were there, and me and Lizzie always laugh. People always like to be like, oh, what's your favourite moment? And obviously there were loads of good moments, but me and Lizzie, we used to sit and drink pina colada tinnies on her. She had like a little bit of a patio. And it was really funny because obviously we were like locked in. So we were like getting people, like outside people, to get us these tinnies in so we could sit on the patio and drink them. And it was absolutely hilarious. And yeah, we've got pictures doing it. And I just think back. In fact, we've got a video. I don't know why that video's never surfaced. I'll have to find it. If there was like a bit of a play park nearby, and I don't know what time it was. Obviously, it was dark because you can't really see a lot. And there's me and Lizzie going down these 2 slides next to each other, and we're like holding hands, and we like go and slide down, and it was fantastic. It was a really, really good experience. I never properly went to university because I was studying psychology while I was there, but it was obviously during COVID, so I didn't really get the uni experience. Not that I'm that bothered, like I've been 35 for the past 10 years, but it was a bit like a uni experience for me. I think it was as close as I was going to get, and I was like, oh, do you know what, better than any other uni experience anyone else has had, so it was great.
That's great. What an image. Well, I think that's it. I think that wraps it up. So how about telling people where they can follow you and see everything you're working on, etc.?
So on social media, my handle is Freya Cox with an _, and then the business is We Are Freyas. You can find it online, on social media, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere. And yeah, you can find the range of 4 box mixes, but you'll be able to find the link will be in my own personal social media. And then my book is Simply Vegan Baking. You can get that any good bookstores, Amazon, the whole lot. But again, if you find me on social media, everything will be linked there.
Thank you so much, Freya. It was great to have you, and it was great to hear all of your incredible Bake Off stories.
It's been lovely to talk to you, Freya. Thanks for doing the Veganuary podcast.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, Wendy, it was so nice to talk to Freya. I had, like, as I said in the interview, I'd binged really that interview of that series of the Great British Bake Off in advance. So it felt like we were on a call with an old friend.
Yeah, such a fun one.
She was really fun. I'm going to give you a quiz now. 5 questions, true or false. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Turkeys can run at speeds of up to 25 miles an hour.
I bet you that's true for wild turkeys. Versus domestic. But yeah, let's say true.
We're saying true. I think you might be right. Wild turkeys. The largest horn spread of a living goat ever recorded was 140 centimeters.
False.
It's true.
Oh, wait, centimeters. Okay.
Okay, Japan has the lowest meat consumption in the world.
Are we including seafood?
Yes.
False.
You're right. It's I've got myself. I've got all confused now. Yes, it is false. The correct answer is India. Right. I've set myself up for a fall here. Arachibutyrophobia is the fear of peanut butter getting stuck to the roof of your mouth.
False.
True.
Really?
The UK consumes more tea per person than any other country. True or false?
No, that's probably true.
It's false. Apparently it's Turkey. I've got a bonus question for you, Wendy. Baked beans are a fruit.
That is a false.
It's false, yeah.
So as always, we would love to hear from you. Stu, tell them how they can contact us.
Yeah, if you'd like to get in contact and tell us maybe about any of your weird food aversions, or whether you've done something that's very like cliche vegan, or in fact, if you've done something that makes you quite a naughty vegan, we'd love to hear from you. So you can email us at podcast@veganuary.com.
And we would be so delighted if all of our listeners took part in Veganuary 2025. How can they do that, Stu?
We would love it. They need to go to our website, which is veganuary.com, and click the Take Part button. And all we ask for is your name, your email address, and the country that you live in. And then we can send you 31 days worth of support emails.
This podcast was recorded at Distorted Podcast Studios and produced by Jim Moore at Bloody Vegans Productions. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe. And while you're there, please give us a 5-star rating. It really helps other people find the show. Thank you.
1,